The head of the National Transportation Safety Board is warning just how close to disaster Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 came to. On Friday, the Boeing 737 MAX 9 experienced a blowout of an unused exit door at around 16,000 feet elevation about 10 minutes after takeoff from the Portland International Airport in Oregon en route to Ontario, California. The flight was able to turn around and land back at Portland with no serious injuries. This whole past weekend has been spent trying to understand what exactly went wrong. A school teacher living in the path of the ill-fated flight found the missing door plugs in his backyard that the NTSB had been looking for. The man, identified only as Bob, was thanked profusely for coming forward with this key piece of evidence. After thanking Bob, the NTSB chair, Jennifer Homendy, went on to explain, quote, "No one was seated in 26A and B where that door plug is. Fortunately, they were not at cruise altitude of 30,000 or 35,000 feet. You're in cruise, everybody's up and walking, folks don't have seatbelts on, they're going to the restrooms, the flight attendants are providing service to the passengers. We could have ended up with something so much more tragic. And it's really fortunate that did not occur here," end quote. The FAA is temporarily grounding about 171 of these planes, which operate under U.S. Airlines or in U.S. territories, until further inspections can be completed, allowing them to return to the air. Now, as safe as air travel has become in recent decades, there has been some gnawing concern that perhaps our society is now geared toward creating people who can't diligently manage our highly modernized and intricate technology. Just a few weeks ago, we discussed how near misses with commercial airlines are happening at an increased rate, largely because there aren't enough qualified air traffic controllers available. And so those who are already hired are forced to work long hours to the point of burnout, sometimes taking drugs to stay awake. Whistleblowers were also saying that many new hires are proving to be inept and unable to complete the intensive training for certification to become an air traffic controller. So what's happening? Everywhere we look, whether it be at universities or at the most prestigious of companies, standards keep being lowered, usually in the name of equity and inclusion, and jobs are being outsourced abroad to save a few bucks. Independent journalist Lee Fang points out that Boeing faced a crisis with its Boeing 737 MAX with deadly crashes in October of 2018 and March of 2019. Investor litigation shows they ignored safety concerns, proceeded to appoint Nikki Haley with zero air safety expertise, but lots of history of providing government subsidies to the board shortly after. And then the CEO of Boeing previously served as senior managing director and head of portfolio operations at the Blackstone Group. Having these types of people in charge instead of those who know planes inside and out leads to stupid decisions to cut corners in order to cut costs. Before those two Boeing 737 MAX planes went down in 2018 and 2019, leading to President Trump to demand the fleet be grounded, Boeing had decided to outsource its software development and implementation to $9 an hour engineers, who are largely recent college grads and temporary workers from Indian tech firms. This article explains, quote, former Boeing software engineer Mark Rabin told Bloomberg that a manager said at an all-hands meeting that senior engineers were no longer required at the company. I was shocked that in a room full of a couple hundred mostly senior engineers, we were being told that we weren't needed, Rabin told Bloomberg. However, Rabin said the code was often not done correctly and that a lot of back and forth was required to get the code accurate. The coders from HCL, which is the Indian tech firm, were working to specifications established from Boeing engineers, end quote. And because of that, 346 people were killed. And now we just had that Alaska Airlines blowout, also on a Boeing. Again, this is the scary part about wokeism, is that everywhere you look, the unqualified are boosted above the qualified, and high standards are erased as smacking of white supremacy. It's a convenient lie for Wall Street and big business to use so that they don't have to pay high salaries to experienced senior engineers. If you want another example of this in action, just look to Jackson, Mississippi, the city which couldn't even get water to its residents, and which is led by a mayor so far left that even the media is calling him radical. The latest scandal involves around 215 bodies buried behind a state jail in unmarked paupers' graves. These are largely the remains of vagrants who only periodically appear in their families' lives. However, the issue here is that some are also murder victims and missing persons who have not been reported back to their families, indicating a complete lack of organization and management by the city government, which would rather throw the bodies out back than track down relatives and open police investigations. According to this local news report today, Reed, a lawyer, describes the grim scene at the burial site, where buzzards flew overhead. The bodies were placed in shallow graves without embalming, leading to a disturbing stench that attracted scavengers. He emphasizes the inhumanity of such treatment and calls for a more dignified handling of the deceased, end quote. That's what happens when you hire based on DEI and spend all your tax revenue on left-wing projects instead of on funding critical infrastructure like, I don't know, law enforcement. And my last example of this breakdown in complex systems that we're seeing is how the defense secretary was hospitalized, and no one from Biden to even the second in command at the Pentagon knew about this for several days. What in the world is going on here all around us?